The crystal glasses stopped clinking. The soft buzz of 100 wedding guests faded into this weird, echoing hush. My mom, Serafina, stood at the head table, gripping the mic hard enough to make it shake. She wore her best tragic mother face, eyes locked on me. I sat there next to Liam, my brand new husband, and honestly, his hand in mine was the only thing that felt solid in that whole damn room. She took a shaky breath and went for it. "I have something to say," she said, her voice loud and too clear through the speakers. "I always tried to raise a daughter I could be proud of, someone with grace, with dignity." She swept the crowd, soaking up their pity, then zeroed in on me again. Her sadness twisted into something sharp, almost cruel. "But tonight I'm faced with a profound embarrassment, an odor of failure I can't ignore anymore." People shifted in their seats. Liam squeezed my hand tighter. I didn't flinch. I just stared back. "I have loved you. I have supported you," she went on, voice rising like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "But I can't stand by and watch you disrespect this family and me with your choices, your presentation, your entire being." She paused, soaking up the drama. Then she dropped the line she'd been rehearsing my whole life. "As of this moment, Alara, you are no longer my daughter." The silence after that was different. Heavy. Drowning. Every single person in that fancy ballroom, yeah, the room I paid for, stared at me. They waited for me to cry, to lose it, to beg her not to do this. That's what Mom wanted, too. She expected me to crawl back, just like always. But I didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just squeezed Liam's hand, our secret sign, and calmly set my napkin down. Then I stood up. My relationship with my mom, always a deal, never a bond. She gave me a place to live. I gave her validation, emotional and eventually financial. My life was her trophy case. My grades, my job, how I looked, she used it all as evidence for her friends. As long as I shined, she looked like a star parent. Then there was my younger brother, Julian, golden boy, charming, good-looking, lazy as hell. He could screw up as much as he wanted. Every failure was just a learning experience. My wins, just the bare minimum. He got praise, I got pressure. And that odor she mentioned, not new. I've got hyperhidrosis, which means I sweat more than most people. It started when I was a teenager. I felt ashamed. She felt inconvenienced. She never saw it as a health thing, just proof I wasn't good enough. "No daughter of mine will smell like that," she'd snap, tossing me another useless deodorant, like my body was rebelling against her on purpose. It was her favorite weapon. When I got a scholarship to a top university, her first words were, "I hope you can manage your problem around those important people." When I landed my first real job, she said, "Don't embarrass yourself in the office, Alara. Professionals notice those things." She never cared about my comfort, just her reputation. The money stuff started small. It always does. "Can you cover the electric bill this month? Julian had an emergency." I was 22, just out of college, happy to help. Then it became routine. "Property tax is due. The car needs a new transmission." "I need a dress for a charity gala, it's for networking." Julian never held a steady job. His whole life was one failed business or half-baked dream after another, all bankrolled by Mom, using my money. If I even hinted at questioning it, she'd pull out her greatest hits. "We're family, Alara. We support each other." Or, "You can afford it, don't be selfish." She made me feel guilty for having my act together. I was responsible, so I had to carry everyone else. Then, about 5 years ago, everything changed. I'd been saving for a down payment on a tiny condo. Budget, spreadsheet, every detail planned. A week before I was ready to make an offer, Mom called, hysterical. Julian had gotten into trouble, bad trouble, with some shady people. He needed $10,000 fast. "They'll hurt him, Alara," she sobbed. I told her I couldn't do it. My money was tied up. "Sell your stocks," she demanded. "Use your savings. What's more important, a condo or your brother's life?" She made it clear if I hesitated, I was the villain. I gave in. I drained my savings and sent the money. Just like that, the condo was gone. 2 weeks later, I saw Julian's picture pop up on social media. He was grinning on a beach in Thailand, coconut in hand, straw and all. No caption. Honestly, he didn't need one. That was when it hit me cold, sharp, no sugarcoating. This wasn't about supporting family. This was just them using me. I wasn't a daughter. I was a resource, their solution. And when a resource runs dry, they toss it. That day, I didn't cry. I opened a new spreadsheet. I called it Parental Loan Ledger. Then I combed through years of bank statements, every transfer to my mother, every bill, every bit of cash I handed over. Dates, amounts, what she said the money was for. The numbers piled up fast. Not just $100 here or there. Tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. I kept every text, every guilt trip email asking for money, always dripping with emotional blackmail. You're the only one I can turn to. Don't let me down. This is for the family's honor. I made a folder on my computer and called it The Archive. Suddenly, I was the forensic accountant of my own life. And I kept paying. I had to. Saying no would have blown everything up, and I wasn't ready for that. I was bidding my time. Deep down, I knew I'd need the receipts. I didn't know when or why, but I knew that day would come. Those spreadsheets, my insurance. Then I met Liam and everything changed. He saw it all clear as day and he was horrified. "They don't see you, Alara," he told me one night. "They see an ATM." He never pushed, never told me what to do. He listened. He made me feel sane. He helped me see the guilt wasn't really mine. My mother put it there. When we decided to get married, the real battle started. I wanted something small, simple. My mother wanted a production. "You're the first to get married," she said. "We must make a statement." I told her we couldn't afford it. She just smiled, all sweetness, and shot me a look. I knew exactly what she meant. I agreed, but only if I controlled the budget. She said yes, but fought me every step. She tried to jack up every cost, invited hundreds of people I'd never met. She tried to run the whole show. Every vendor she picked had prices 20% higher than mine. Later, I found out she was taking kickbacks. I shut that down fast. The last showdown was about the dress. I found a simple, elegant dress that made me feel beautiful. My mother hated it. "It's too plain," she sniffed. "It does nothing for you. You need something to distract from your condition." She wanted me in a heavy, ornate ball gown, something to hide in. For once, I didn't back down. I bought the dress I wanted. She didn't speak to me for a month. But of course, she came to the wedding. She wouldn't miss a chance to play mother of the bride. So now, at the reception, my mother's face is a storm of anger and disbelief. I hadn't broken. I wasn't following her script. She watched as I walked not to her, but to a sleek briefcase beside my chair. I'd put it there before anyone arrived. Liam carried it in for me. It looked like wedding planner stuff. Nobody paid attention. I set the briefcase on the head table and opened it. My hands were steady. My mother's eyes went wide. This was not in her playbook. "Ilara, what are you doing?" she hissed, just loud enough for the table. "Don't make this worse for yourself." I ignored her, pulled out a silver remote and a small, powerful projector. I aimed it at the big white screen we'd used earlier for childhood photos. Guests started whispering. This wasn't on anyone's schedule. Definitely not the heartfelt apology they might have expected. I hit the button, the screen flickered on. One huge document appeared. At the top, bold and clear, promissory note and loan acknowledgement. I picked up the microphone my mother had left behind. My voice was steady. No shaking, no anger, just calm and businesslike. "Good evening, everyone," I started. "Thank you for being here to celebrate with me and Liam. My mother," raised a point I think needs clearing up. I gestured to the screen. "She is correct that our relationship has for many years been a transaction. She just has the roles reversed. She has never been the provider. She has been the recipient. and I have been her bank." A wave of shocked whispers went through the room. My mother turned white. Julian, my brother, started to stand up, a confused and angry look on his face. "What is this, Alara? Stop it," he said. I didn't look at him. My focus was on the numbers. "On the screen," I continued, "is an itemized ledger of all the funds I have provided to my mother and brother over the last 10 years. This does not include basic living expenses when I lived in her home. This is for debt payments, failed business ventures, luxury cars, vacations, and what she liked to call maintaining the family image." The document on the screen was a simplified version of my master spreadsheet. It was a list of dates, loan amounts, and purposes. The total at the bottom was in a large, red font. It was a staggering number. I read it out loud. $374,852.16. The collective gasp in the room was audible. The silence that followed was even louder than before. My mother stared at the number as if it were a snake. Her entire narrative, the one where she was the long-suffering matriarch and I was the ungrateful daughter, had just been vaporized by a single slide. But I was not finished. "A loan implies an expectation of repayment," I said, my voice unwavering. "I have never seen a single dollar returned. When I asked my mother about it, she told me it was my family duty. My duty was to fund her lifestyle. My duty was to enable my brother's irresponsibility. My duty was to remain silent." I clicked the remote. The next slide appeared. It was a series of text messages, their dates and times clearly visible. The sender was always Mom. The messages were manipulative and demanding. "Your brother needs a new laptop for his graphic design career. Send the money. The club membership is due. My friends are all waiting. Don't embarrass me. I saw your bonus posted on your company's news feed. I expect my share." I let the audience read them for a moment. Then I moved to the next slide. It was a satellite image of a house. "This is the house I grew up in," I explained. "The house my mother currently lives in alone. She likes to tell her friends that she owns it, that my father left it to her free and clear." I clicked again. The official property deed appeared on the screen. My name was clearly listed as the sole owner. "I purchased the house from the bank 2 years ago when she was about to be foreclosed on. She did not know. I told her I had simply sorted it out with the bank manager. In truth, I bought her home out from under her to save her from the humiliation of eviction." My gaze finally met hers. Her face was no longer pale. It was blotchy with rage. "I own your home, Serafina." The use of her first name felt like a slap. "You see," I told the room, "the story she tells about her ungrateful daughter is missing some key details. The daughter who paid for this venue, this dress, this food. The daughter whose medical condition she uses as a verbal weapon, while simultaneously cashing the checks from the job that daughter works so hard at." I took out a final set of papers from the briefcase. This time, they were not a projection. They were physical copies, printed on thick legal paper. I walked from the head table to where my mother was now slumped in her chair, Julian trying to comfort her, though he looked just as stunned. I placed one document in front of her. "This is a formal invoice for the full amount of the loan, plus a modest interest rate calculated from the date of each transfer. You have 90 days to arrange a payment plan." I then placed a second document on top of it. "And this," I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper, but a whisper that carried in the dead, silent room, "is your 30-day eviction notice." The finality of it hung in the air. The trap was not just sprung, it had been dismantled, analyzed, and displayed for everyone to see. Serafina did not speak. She simply stared at the papers. Her meticulously crafted world, her reputation, her financial security, it all rested on those 2 pieces of paper. And it was all gone. My brother finally found his voice. It was not the confident, entitled voice he usually used. It was thin and shaky. "You can't do this," he said, looking at me. "We're family." It was the line I had been waiting for, the final, predictable, desperate cliché. I really looked at him for the first time that night. I saw not my brother, but a man-child, enabled and weakened by years of coddling. "You are correct, Julian," I said. "We are family, but family is a bond, it is not a blank check. The bank is now closed." I turned away from them. I walked back to Liam, who stood up to meet me. He wrapped his arm around me. He did not say anything. He didn't have to. I picked up the microphone one last time. I addressed my guests. "I sincerely apologize for this interruption. I know this is not what you expect at a wedding. But sometimes, a marriage is not just the beginning of a new family. It is also the end of an old one." I looked around at the faces. Some were shocked. Some were sympathetic. A few, my closest friends who knew snippets of the story, looked proud. "Please," I said, my voice softening for the first time. "Enjoy the dinner. Enjoy the music. Liam and I will be back in a moment." We turned, hand in hand, and walked out of the ballroom. We did not run. We walked with a calm, unhurried pace. Behind us, we could hear the first sounds of my mother starting to scream. Security, whom I had prepaid and pre-briefed for this exact possibility, was already moving toward her table. We didn't go far. We went into a small private suite connected to the ballroom. Liam closed the door, and the sound of my mother's hysterics was instantly muted. The room was quiet. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding for 20 years. The adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a strange and hollow lightness. Liam pulled me into a hug. I leaned my head against his chest, and finally, I cried. Not tears of sadness or anger, tears of relief. The sheer, overwhelming relief of a burden lifted. The weight of her expectations, her manipulations, her constant, corrosive disapproval, it was gone. "You did it," he whispered into my hair. "It's over." I knew he didn't mean the party. He meant the lifetime of being her daughter. The performance was over. The duty was fulfilled. Her debt, was now on the table. We stayed in that room for 15 minutes. We didn't talk much, we just held each other. The noise from the ballroom next door went through several phases. The shouting faded, replaced by the sound of commotion, and then eventually the slow return of music. My best friend Maya sent a text. "She's gone. So is Julian. Some people are leaving, but most are staying. And they are eating the very expensive sea bass you paid for." I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "Good," I texted back. "Don't let the open bar go to waste." We composed ourselves. I fixed my makeup. I took a deep breath. We were married. This was our wedding night. We had just started our new life by surgically and publicly excising the cancer that had plagued my old one. It was time to rejoin our own party. The aftermath was exactly as I had planned. My mother's social circle imploded. The story of her public disownment and my public presentation of her finances spread like wildfire. But the narrative was not what she would have wanted. I was not the villain. I was the accountant who finally audited the family books. She was the one exposed as a fraud, living a lifestyle funded by the daughter she so openly despised. The eviction was not pleasant. She refused to leave, of course. I had to get the sheriff involved. They escorted a screaming, weeping Serafina from the house. She had taken everything of value and trashed what she could not carry. It didn't matter. The house was just a building. It was the principle of it. I had the locks changed, the damage repaired, and I put the house on the market. It sold in a week. Julian called me once. He pleaded, he bargained, he threatened. He told me I had destroyed our family. "You destroyed your own support system," I told him, my voice flat. "Your allowance is cut off, effective immediately. I suggest you find a job." He hung up on me. I have not heard from him since. A few extended family members reached out. Some tried to shame me, telling me to respect my mother. I sent them each a copy of the loan ledger and a link to the property records. The calls stopped. Others called to offer quiet support, admitting they had always seen the dynamic but had been afraid to speak up. I thanked them and moved on. My new life is quiet. It is peaceful. There are no panicked phone calls demanding money. There are no passive-aggressive comments about my appearance. There is no longer a cloud of disapproval following me wherever I go. Liam and I bought our own home, a modest place that is all ours. I no longer feel a knot in my stomach when my phone rings with an unknown number. The absence of that constant stress is a strange feeling. For so long, my life was defined by my reaction to her actions. Now, my life is defined by my own choices. It is a freedom I never knew I was missing. The revenge was not in the humiliation she suffered. That was just a consequence. The revenge was in the quiet peace I now live in every single day. It was in the simple act of reclaiming my own life. They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes peace of mind is thicker than blood. The hardest part was not creating the spreadsheets or planning the confrontation. The hardest part was accepting that the love I wanted from her was never going to be given. It was an obligation, a transaction I was tired of funding. Severing that tie was not an act of hate. It was the ultimate act of self-preservation. I want to leave you with a question to think about. At what point does a family obligation become a form of personal bankruptcy? Share your thoughts in the comments below.